We are kicking things off with a heavy backstory that sets the emotional stakes for the whole Sarentu clan. It turns out the main characters were stolen from their families and put into the TAP program, which is honestly super messed up. They were asleep for 15 years, missing out on everything, and now they are awake and trying to reconnect with their roots while dealing with the trauma of being raised by humans. The visuals here are absolutely stunning as we get a glimpse of the Hallelujah Mountains and the peaceful life before everything went sideways. It creates this perfect contrast to the chaos that is about to go down. The flashback sequence shows a legendary battle, highlighting just how intense the history is between the clans and the RDA. It really emphasizes that the fight for Pandora has been going on for a long time. Things are getting tense as the characters navigate through some wreckage, and the dialogue hints at the heavy burden of being a survivor. They are dealing with collapsed bridges and locked doors, which feels like a metaphor for their current situation. The banter here is actually kind of funny despite the danger, showing that they use humor to cope with the stress of constantly being hunted by the Sky People. The group meets up with the Wind Traders, and the excitement is palpable because it represents a connection to the wider world of Pandora. There is a lot of admiration for the culture and the massive creatures involved. However, the vibe shifts quickly when they realize something is off. It goes from a wholesome cultural exchange to a suspicion that trouble is brewing, proving that peace never lasts long here. The investigation begins as they stumble upon a scene of destruction that looks incredibly suspicious. Finding a dead dire horse is a huge red flag, and the way it was killed suggests it was not just a random attack. The characters start piecing together clues, realizing that this is not standard RDA operating procedure. It is a mystery that hints at a new, more sinister threat lurking in the forest. The atmosphere turns super creepy as they explore the burned remnants of the forest, which is honestly heartbreaking to see. The discovery of Na'vi gear mixed with human tech is deeply unsettling. It suggests that there are collaborators or a new faction at play. The realization that other Na'vi might be involved in this destruction adds a layer of betrayal that makes the conflict feel much more personal. Returning to the old TAP facility is a massive trauma trigger for the group, and you can feel the hesitation in their voices. It is a haunted house of memories where they were experimented on. They have to navigate through the overgrown ruins, and using the old access codes feels like unlocking a part of their past they wanted to forget. The eerie silence of the place speaks volumes. Standing in the cryo room where they were kept frozen is a surreal moment for the protagonist. It really hammers home how much time was stolen from them. They find evidence of recent activity, which is terrifying because it means someone is using their childhood prison for something new. The mix of nostalgia and horror here is potent as they realize their past is being weaponized against them. Hi there. If you want to enjoy more gaming lore without grinding for 60 hours, hit that subscribe button. I do the grinding so you don't have to. Your support really helps the channel. The villain reveal is intense, with the introduction of a new antagonist who knows way too much about them. This guy is not just a soldier. He is playing mind games and clearly enjoys the psychological warfare. He calls out the protagonist by their TAP name, which is a total power move designed to make them feel small. It establishes him as a threat who attacks their identity, not just their bodies. After a chaotic confrontation, the team is scrambling to regroup, and the panic is real. They realize that the enemy includes other Na'vi, the Mongquan, which completely shatters their understanding of the war. It is not just humans versus aliens anymore. It is a civil war situation. The sense of betrayal is overwhelming as they try to process that their own kind could side with the destroyers. The stealth section here is incredibly stressful, as the protagonist tries to infiltrate a compromised area without getting caught. The enemy is everywhere, and the stakes are life or death. Listening to the RDA chatter reveals just how confident and arrogant they are, thinking they have already won. It fuels the desire to prove them wrong and take back what was stolen, turning fear into motivation. We witness a brutal interrogation scene that shows just how ruthless the new enemies are. They are willing to burn everything down to get the Sarentu. The Elder's defiance in the face of death is a powerful moment of resistance. It highlights the spiritual strength of the Na'vi compared to the hollow cruelty of their oppressors. It is a tragic but inspiring stand that motivates the protagonist to fight harder. The chaos of battle erupts, and the protagonist has to navigate through a war zone to find their friends. The pacing here is frantic, mirroring the confusion and urgency of the situation. Every corner could hide a sniper or a trap. It is a test of all the skills they have learned, forcing them to be a one-person army to save the people who matter most to them. There is a brief moment of respite as they plan their next move, but the mood is heavy with loss. They are realizing that the enemy is targeting their culture and their sacred sites, not just military targets. It is a cultural genocide attempt, and the Sarentu are the last line of defense. The determination to protect their heritage becomes the driving force, pushing them to take extreme risks. The fight in the mountains is visually spectacular but terrifying because of the unstable terrain. The RDA is just blowing things up without a care, causing massive environmental damage. The protagonist has to dodge explosions while trying to take out snipers, which is a high-octane multitasking nightmare. It shows the sheer disregard the humans have for the planet, contrasting sharply with the Na'vi's connection to it. Finding a safe spot amidst the carnage allows for a tiny breathing room, but the devastation is everywhere. The smoke and fire are choking the life out of the forest. The protagonist is hunting the hunters, turning the tables on the RDA squads. It is a gritty guerrilla warfare vibe where knowledge of the land is the only advantage they have against superior firepower. This is undoubtedly the emotional low point of the story so far, dealing with the death of a bonded Ikran. The grief is raw and palpable, showing that these animals are family, not just mounts. The pain fuels a desire for vengeance that borders on dangerous. It is a heartbreaking reminder of the cost of war, and it hardens the protagonist's resolve to make the enemy pay for every life taken. The confrontation with the Mongquan warriors is deeply unsettling because they look like Na'vi but act like machines. They have abandoned their connection to Awa for power, and it is honestly tragic to see. The dialogue highlights the ideological clash between tradition and corruption. It is not just a physical fight, it is a battle for the soul of their people, making every blow land with emotional weight. Talon pulls a reckless move by infiltrating a massive cargo ship alone, proving he has more bravery than common sense. He wants to be the hero, but his friends are terrified for him. It is a classic underdog moment where the tech-savvy character tries to take on an entire military operation. The scale of the ship versus one Na'vi emphasizes just how impossible the odds are, but he goes for it anyway. Inside the ship, the tension is through the roof as the protagonist meets up with Talon. They have a clash of philosophies about how to handle the situation, stealth versus chaos. The discovery that they can use the enemy's own technology against them is a game changer. It shows that adapting to the modern world is necessary for survival, even if it feels like compromising their values. The sabotage mission goes into full swing, and it is incredibly satisfying to watch the RDA's systems crumble. Overloading the engines and causing chaos is the perfect payback. The banter between the characters keeps the energy up even as alarms are blaring. It is a heist movie vibe within a sci-fi war epic, showcasing their ingenuity and refusal to play by the enemy's rules. Escaping the exploding ship is a high adrenaline sequence that feels like a summer blockbuster finale. They barely make it out alive, and the destruction of the docks is a massive victory. However, the victory is bittersweet because they know it is just a temporary setback for the RDA. It is a moment of celebration mixed with the grim reality that the war is far from over. We get some serious character development here as Priya prepares to leave, signaling the end of an era for the resistance cell. It is a sentimental goodbye that acknowledges how much they have grown. The focus shifts to the remaining Sarentu taking ownership of their destiny. It is a passing of the torch moment, forcing the young warriors to step up and lead without their human mentors holding their hands. The investigation leads to a horrifying discovery of an animal trafficking ring, which is a new low for the RDA. Seeing the creatures in cages and traps is infuriating and motivates the protagonist to shut it down. It adds an environmental protection angle to the mission. They are not just fighting for themselves, but for the innocent wildlife that is being exploited for profit. Infiltrating the repurposed facility is a maze-like challenge, requiring both combat skills and puzzle solving. The place is crawling with guards, and the protagonist has to use the environment to their advantage. The tension builds as they get closer to the center of the operation. It feels like entering the belly of the beast, with the industrial machinery creating a cold, oppressive atmosphere. The revelation of the captured Mastodon being controlled by tech is absolutely heartbreaking and enraging. It is a grotesque perversion of nature. The protagonist has to fight to free the beast without hurting it, which adds a complex layer to the combat. It is a high-stakes rescue mission where the princess is a giant, angry, armored elephant creature that could crush you by accident. The battle to liberate the Mastodon is chaotic, with the protagonist trying to shoot the control devices while dodging attacks from all sides. The villain's commentary over the speakers is incredibly annoying, making you want to punch him. Freeing the animal feels like a massive triumph of nature over technology. It is a chaotic scene of smashing metal and roaring triumph that feels incredibly earned. With the Mastodon loose, the facility is being torn apart, and it is pure poetic justice. The RDA soldiers are panicking as their prize turns against them. The protagonist uses the chaos to their advantage, cleaning up the remaining forces. It is a satisfying moment of consequences. Meet actions as the oppressors get trampled by the very nature they tried to subdue. We transition into an aerial dogfight that is absolutely intense, pitting the Ikran against gunships and the traitorous Navi. The female antagonist, Vang, is relentless, and her insults make the fight personal. It is a clash of skills in the sky, with missiles flying everywhere. The desperation to protect their friends while taking down a superior aerial force makes this one of the most white-knuckle moments. After the adrenaline dump of the battle, the characters have to land and regroup, but the tension with Noor is bubbling over. He is becoming more radicalized, and it is creating a rift in the group. The dialogue here is heavy with unsaid resentments. It is the classic tragedy of war changing people in different ways, threatening to tear the family apart from the inside. The search for the missing clan members leads to a grim discovery of a skirmish site. The evidence points to a desperate struggle. and the fear for their safety is real. The group is following breadcrumbs, and every clue increases the anxiety. It is a detective sequence where the stakes are personal, and the fear of finding a body instead of a survivor hangs over everything. The confrontation with the injured soldier and Noor's reaction to it is a pivotal character moment. Noor's ruthlessness is shocking, showing how far he has fallen. He sees mercy as weakness, which completely goes against their teachings. This ideological split is becoming the main conflict, even more than the RDA. It is heartbreaking to watch a friend turn into something unrecognizable out of anger and grief. Navigating the caves is a claustrophobic experience that mirrors the trapped feeling of the characters. The path is blocked, forcing them to find creative solutions, but the internal conflict slows them down. Noor's impatience is growing, and he is taking dangerous risks. It feels like the group dynamic is on the verge of collapsing just when they need to be united the most. They finally catch a break and get some intel, but it comes with the realization that they are being hunted by a specialized unit. The enemy knows their tactics and is adapting. The conversation shifts to the philosophy of the Sarentu versus the Ash clan. It is a battle of narratives, survival through adaptation versus survival through dominance. The identity crisis of the clan is front and center. The Sniper Duel in the ravines is a tense game of cat and mouse. The enemy sniper is taunting them, trying to bait them into a mistake. It is a psychological battle as much as a physical one. The protagonist has to stay cool under pressure while being hunted by someone who is essentially their dark mirror image. Every movement could be their last. The banter with the sniper reveals her twisted worldview. She sees her cybernetic enhancements as evolution, while the protagonist sees them as slavery. It is a fascinating clash of ideals. She thinks the Sarentu are weak for clinging to the old ways. Defeating her feels like proving that spiritual strength beats technological augmentation. It is a victory for tradition in the face of aggressive modernization. The villain's frustration is growing as his elite squad gets picked off, one by one. We hear the cracks forming in the alliance between the RDA and the Ash clan. They are starting to blame each other for the failures. It is satisfying to see the bad guys turning on themselves. The protagonist's persistence is causing chaos in their ranks, proving that one determined warrior can break an army. Infiltrating the next base involves digging for digital clues, and it is a race against time. The protagonist is hacking terminals to find the location of their captured friend. The indifference of the RDA soldiers discussing the prisoners is chilling. It highlights the dehumanization of the Na'vi by the invaders. Every second wasted on hacking feels like an eternity when a friend's life is on the line. The stealth gameplay shifts to combat as the alarm is tripped, and it is an all-out brawl. The protagonist has to use every weapon in their arsenal to survive the ambush. The enemy chatter reveals they are terrified of the demon tearing through their base. It is a power fantasy moment where the hunter becomes the hunted, and the protagonist feels absolutely unstoppable. Finally, locating the prisoner transfer intel gives them a clear target, but it is a trap. The RDA is baiting them in. The protagonist knows it but has to go anyway. The loyalty to their friends overrides their survival instinct. It is a classic hero dilemma. They are walking into the lion's den with their eyes open, ready to burn it down from the inside. The destruction of the base's infrastructure is methodical and satisfying. Taking out generators and fuel lines cripples their ability to call for reinforcements. It is a strategic masterclass, showing that the protagonist is not just a brute fighter, but a tactician. They are dismantling the enemy's war machine piece by piece, turning a fortress into a smoking ruin. A quiet moment between the chaos allows for a vulnerability check. The protagonist admits they are scared of being the last of their kind, showing the human side of the hero. The fear of loneliness is a powerful motivator. It grounds the fantastical action in real emotion. They are fighting not just to survive, but to have a family to come home to. Noor finally crosses a line that cannot be uncrossed, letting his anger consume him entirely. He refuses to save the humans, choosing vengeance over mercy. It is a shocking betrayal of their values that leaves the rest of the group horrified. The confrontation is emotional and raw. It is the moment the group fractures, perhaps permanently, as they realize they cannot save everyone, especially not from themselves. The safe house is attacked and it is absolute bedlam. The RDA throws everything they have at them, including missiles. The defense sequence is desperate, with the team back-to-back against overwhelming odds. It is a test of their bond in the face of annihilation. The frantic pace leaves no time to think, only to react and protect each other. In the aftermath of the attack, the argument about Noor's actions reaches a boiling point. The protagonist tries to hold the moral high ground, but the trauma is evident. They are realizing that war turns good people into monsters. The tragedy is that they understand why Noor did it, even if they condemn it. It is a gray area that makes the story feel much more mature and complex. The final plan to retake Hometree is put into motion, and it is a suicide mission. They have to sneak in under the noses of an army. The use of the sonic dampeners and tech hacks shows how much they have learned. It is the culmination of all their skills. The anticipation is killer because this is the symbol of their people, and failing here means losing everything. The assault on Hometree begins, and the villain, Wukula, steps out for the final showdown. He is arrogant and imposing, challenging the protagonist to a duel. The atmosphere is electric with personal stakes. It is not just about territory anymore. It is about honor and legacy. The clash of blades is the physical manifestation of the ideological war they have been waging the whole time. The boss fight is grueling, with Wukula using dirty tactics and heavy weaponry. The protagonist has to use the environment, dodging fuel lines and machinery. The villain's taunts about being the true warrior are grating, making it so satisfying to land hits on him. It is a fight for the future of the clan, proving that strength comes from heart, not just muscle and hate. With the villain defeated, the emotional release is massive. The group gathers, battered but alive, to reclaim their home. The sense of peace returning to the forest is palpable. They have survived the fire and come out stronger. It is a beautiful moment of reconnection with the land and each other, acknowledging that while they have scars, they are still standing. The ending monologue is super hopeful, talking about rising from the ashes and the Sarentu legacy living on. But then we get that post-credits scene where the RDA commander basically says, "We are not leaving." It is a chilling reminder that the war is never truly over. It sets the stage for future conflicts, promising that as long as the Sky people are greedy, the fight for Pandora will continue. Gaming lore is long and confusing, but I break it down every week. Subscribe so you never miss a plot twist or hidden detail. Thanks for watching.